So, I mean, in theory, this is capitalism working. I say I like this strategically. I'm cautiously optimistic. Building a game engine is super hard. Open source projects are super hard. And so we'll see what actually happens here. But I like the chutzpah of this bet and this team. First up, a interesting story and a personal obsession of mine. Marvel Snap developer Second Dinner is investing in W4 Games to form a multi-year partnership with a strategic investment. So W4 Games is a company I've never heard of, but it's an Irish game company that has been formed by prominent veteran Godot contributors. So what's Godot? Good question. Godot is an open source game development platform that has raised its profile to high prominence since the Unity runtime fee controversy of September 2023. So just a quick refresher what that was. Unity abruptly changed their business model from a per seat fee to a per install runtime fee or percentage of game revenue. That's a lot more money when they modeled this out, and there was a huge backlash from game developers. And Unity has since sort of backpedaled on that, but the business model has fundamentally changed. So Godot is an open source development engine similar to the Unity game engine, and it's emerged as one of only a few real competitors to Unity as well as Unreal. And it's open source, which is pretty interesting and pretty different. They have a permissive MIT license, which is very, very popular among developers because there isn't an inherent fee associated with it. And according to the press release, 2,000 games were published last year on Godot. So why is this important? Second Dinner has done a strategic investment into W4 Games. And these are some of the folks who are the main contributors to the Godot project overall. The goal for this is Second Dinner is now intending to make the largest game ever produced on Godot. Now, why is that interesting? I mean, Second Dinner, we've talked about a lot on the podcast. We've worked with them previously. They launched Marvel Snap, which was Game of the Year a couple years ago, a massive, massive hit. Also a personal obsession of mine. I spent hundreds of dollars on it. You're welcome. But the prestige that goes and weight that Second Dinner can throw behind this project is really important. They have the ability to really, really invest and develop for the long term. And not only is Second Dinner lending the reputation to Godot, but presumably as they do investment in an open source engine, they'll continue to develop the engine and give back to the ecosystem, which can help attract a critical mass of other developers who then can further the ecosystem and it can sort of become the flywheel that's needed for a game engine to really catch steam. So that's a lot of information to throw at you. Warren, any hot takes on what this means and how this is relevant to the macro trend overall?
I think it's really cool. Obviously, we have some bias. We're good friends with the Second Dinner team, have a lot of respect for them, various other nice things. I'll say, I mean, they're a very forward-thinking team. And I think, Xander, one thing we chatted about a little bit before, a lot of the companies that we're most excited about in the gaming space, I think, have plays in both the platform and tools side as well as building games. And just from an investment and company stability standpoint, I think that's personally really important because gaming is so hits driven. So Second Dinner has had an amazing initial at bat with the first game they shipped being Marvel Snap and all the success and critical acclaim of Marvel Snap. And I think, as always in the business world, you want to kind of make your plays while you have a hot hand. So I think it's really cool to see them diversifying. And this is a very right time to diversify and invest in Godot because it came onto the public radar for those of us within the game industry and got a lot more prominence, exactly as you said, Xander, because of this Unity controversy. So I think Godot is now on the radar of a lot of teams that it wasn't before, because I think there's still a lot of things still unresolved about the long-term business models of Unity and how that may affect developers and some anxiety about placing long-term bets building there. So I like this a lot. One thing that I'm looking up that I haven't seen good information on is, has there been AAA games that have been built on Godot? Do you know, Xander? There's been like some Sonic the Hedgehog games, but I don't see anything like, obviously a ton of games have been built on Godot, but I think it's been primarily more used by smaller indie developers, right, Xander?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. And I think that's kind of the point, is they're sort of planting their flag and saying, hey, we've taken VC investment, we have this war chest, we have a successful game, we have a killer team, we're going to make this a thing. You know, to me, this is really interesting because one of the ways I've been trying to play gaming as an investor personally is you invest in the tools, like you said. And so like I've invested in Unity, I've invested in Epic Games. Those have been, I'd say, flailing investments, but it's really interesting because I'm having to reevaluate the thesis is the fact that now there can be more open source competitors, how real is this as a competitor to those bets? I think it's really interesting to say that, hey, we have the pedigree, we have the talent, we have the capacity to build this out as a major thing. And at minimum, it gives leverage for other developers to have alternatives besides Unity and Epic when they go and negotiate with those teams.
It gives leverage, but it also gives permission. So I think it's really smart because, to the best of our research, it doesn't seem like there's a flagship game that's been built on Godot. Like we were just chatting about, Second Dinner ships that, and it gives other development teams the permission to say, oh, we actually can make a bet building on Godot because we have a AAA game that's shipped on Godot, built by Second Dinner. There's proof that you can make a AAA quality title with it. So I think it's really smart for multiple reasons. I love it.
And the other thing that's interesting here is both Unity now and Epic previously is they have these really meaningful costs associated with developing on those platforms. Epic has always taken, their sticker price is 5% of revenue. The new Unity is like either a runtime fee or 2.5% of revenue, depending on some parameters. And that, for these VC-backed companies is like a pretty substantial amount of money. And so I think that's the other thing here is like, this is a long-term bet. We don't know whether or not it's going to pay off, but it's a meaningful bet because of the cost that's now associated with these platforms. So, in theory, is this capitalism working? I say, I like this strategically. I'm cautiously optimistic. Building a game engine is super hard. Open source projects are super hard. And so we'll see what actually happens here. But I like the chutzpah of this bet and this team.
I have maybe one other thing to talk about here. How does, I just talked about how much I like this deal, but there is an important question. How does Second Dinner profit off of this investment? Because looking into what is Godot's business model, it doesn't really have a business model currently. It's backed by a nonprofit organization and foundation. So do you have any thoughts or insights here, Xander, of how is ROI achieved on this investment?
So to be super clear, they invested in W4 Games, which is a separate game development studio who are contributors to the Godot project, right? So not investing in Godot, they're investing in W4. Now, I think the bet here is kind of what I just articulated, which is that there is a huge line item that they see in the future, which is 2.5% to 5% of total revenue going forward, which they have to give away to somebody else. And it's similar to how like Facebook is open sourcing Llama, right? So they're investing all this money in the Llama AI model and they're open sourcing it. And what they want is, or any of their open source projects that they have focused on over the year, they've done a lot around server infrastructure here as well, Meta has. And the idea here is it's in your interest as a business to have the ecosystems coalesce around your tech stack. And you do that because people build stuff for you for free. The standard, people train on your software, and the standards get built around the thing that you use, not like Unity, which is the de facto lock-in right now. And so I think that's the thesis. The thesis is this is a bet that you're going to build an ecosystem, or like you're trying to force an ecosystem into place against the entrenched competitors who have a lock on the future-looking business model.
All right. Thanks, everyone. As always, the pod was brought to you by team here at Uptick. You probably heard us say before, but here at Uptick, we help games grow. We provide the people for creative, user acquisition, analytics, all the related functions, and we provide the software to automate and streamline all parts of that through the Uptick platform. If you're scaling a game and want good folks and good software to enable that, reach us through our website, uptick.com, UPPTIC.com.
Talk soon.